Good morning. Great to be together here at the beginning of the week, and how thankful I am. We have a God who loves us, cares about us, thankful for a great weekend and people getting saved. I don't know. I'm not a statistics person. I'm terrible with numbers. Most of you know that, but it would be a rare week in these last 40 plus years that someone hasn't been saved. Some of those weeks during the early COVID times might have squelched things a little bit. But we wised up pretty fast and realized somebody was pulling the wool over our eyes, and we got busy doing what we're supposed to do again. But how grateful I am for each of you, for your faithfulness, for your prayer life, for your giving, for getting the gospel out. And I hope we'll keep doing it. Look, let's keep getting the gospel out. Carry gospel tracts, pass them out. Invite people to church. Tell them. Invite the cashier at the store to the church. Invite the person from the bank to the church. And let's just get busy inviting people. And if you know how to share the gospel, and I hope you do, tell people about Christ. There's a great, great need. And one of the things that we're having happen more and more, I'm going to say every week, happens that young people who rode our buses or went to our Sunday school years ago now are adults, and they're starting to look for reality and truth. And the other day I was at the grocery store just to grab a couple of things, but my intent was to talk to some people in the parking lot. And I went over to a young man, and this young man came to me, and turned out he and his family, the other siblings, had ridden our buses, and he did everything but give me a hug. And by the time I got into the store and got some things and back out, he came and found me, talked to me some more, and we want to get these people into church again. And there's no hard feelings toward me. It's just, do they want God or not? But let's talk about Him all the time, and to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. We ought to be the people that are turning the world upside down. This morning, I'm going to be in Acts 17 in a minute or two, but I wanted to mention a quick story out of Brother Gipp's book on Fight On. And this is 1781. John Schnell, he was a German immigrant to the young American colonies, and to protect his family from the British, he built a 2-story blockhouse. Now, it wasn't his home they lived in. This was a place to run to in defense. It wasn't built for comfort and living and cooking. It was built for defense, so they could get away from the enemy, the British and various Indians. And one day while he was out in the field, he heard his wife cry a warning, and the British, a neighbor, a British sympathizer, Donald MacDonald, of a band of Tories and Indians, was headed for them. And so they took off, and John Schnell and his wife and 6 children made it into the blockhouse. 2 boys were cut off and captured. They were bound and carried into the woods. The fight was on. The Indians rushed the fort only to be introduced to the Schnell family muskets, and they went down again and again until 20 bodies laid out in the area in front of the blockhouse. And still the Schnell and his family were outnumbered. They tried to burn the fort, but the flames were extinguished. And then Donald MacDonald, that got the whole thing rolling, he decided he was going to go up, and he snuck up to the door and began to batter it down. And John Schnell's musket ball found him, and he died the next day, even though Schnell tried to save his life. 5 Indians rushed the fort, shoved their barrels through the musket holes through holes in the walls into the little blockhouse, trying to get somebody. And Mrs. Schnell, she had a big axe, and she smashed it down on those barrels and disarmed their holders. And when everything seemed hopeless, they didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, they heard John Schnell began singing a hymn. And they're Germans. It's a Lutheran hymn. He began singing an old hymn of the faith. And he just sang. They said he had a deep bass voice. And they all stopped. And they thought, what can he be singing about? And they realized that the colonists must have snuck in around him and circled him. And they were so paranoid that, though, of course, they've had 20, 30 people killed, and they didn't know what to do, and they panicked. They thought they were trapped. So the Tories and the Indians, and they all took off and ran, and took off and never to be seen again, by the way. And then we find out there were no reinforcements. It was just a German bass voice singing that God was good and He's going to be their refuge. And sometime later, the 2 boys that were taken prisoner, they'd been taken all the way from New York all the way up to Canada. they were released, and those boys returned home. No one in the family was hurt. And this John Snell, what makes this significant is he wrote this hymn. And this is a German translation that was later translated into English. But this is the direct translation of the German. A firm fortress is our God, a good defense and weapon. He helps us free from all our troubles, which we have now befallen. The old devil, the old evil enemy, he is now seriously going to work. Great power and much cunning are his cruel equipments. There is none like him on the earth. And of course, from Schnell's German hymn, we get the hymn, A Mighty Fortress was our God, a bulwark never failing. And what a great story of a man who just decided and he was going to go on. And it was his faith that allowed it was his faith that the Lord used to drive off the enemy just with what a musket ball could not do, his song did. And that's faith. Remember when the people began to praise God and the Lord sent an ambushment? Had the people not been praising God, the ambushments wouldn't have come. I want to encourage you, rejoice in the Lord. I want to show you a couple thoughts today. You know, we all live in this world where new things are enticing. And who doesn't like a new suit or a new pair of shoes or a new car or whatever? But we get in this thing sometimes. Many Americans, there's nothing wrong with my phone, but I want the new phone. And my computer's working fine, but we want the new computer. Nothing wrong with my TV, but it's this big. I want a big old TV. And we love the new. New paint, new houses. And I'm sure not against new things. And aren't we blessed? But you know, the problem comes when we start being motivated by the new things, needing the new things, wanting that's covetousness. You know, and it's seen a lot in young people, in restaurants, for example. Now, I like Pizza Hut. I'll eat if you have pizza, I'll eat it. I like pizza, and I pretty much eat whatever's on it. I may pick a few peppers off or something if I feel like there's too many, but I'm gonna eat pizza. But I like Pizza Hut. I don't think anybody's got more greasy, unhealthy crust, deeper crust, and better toppings. I just think Pizza Hut is not a paid commercial. That's what I like, and I just do. I just like it. But I'll eat Domino's or Little Caesars or whatever, or at least a little bit. But I can eat myself sick on Pizza Hut. But we're in a generation. They like that new. They don't want to just go to the old place. They want to go to the new place. And let's find some new little restaurant. And let's try this little new hole in the wall. And a lot of times they don't even like it. But they went to the new place. And I think, this is me, I don't know what's on a person's heart. I think sometimes they want to be at the new place and be able to do their little social media blurb. We found this really great new hole in the wall. Nobody's ever discovered it before. The problem is most of the time that hole in the wall is a hole in the wall because it's not very good. But we want to be somebody. Who's excited that I went to Pizza Hut? Who hasn't had Pizza Hut pizza before? So there's nothing exciting. I can't post on social media. Here we are at Pizza Hut. Well, who hadn't been at Pizza Hut? Well, now you don't go in very much. You all do takeout. But our society wants new clothes, new hairstyles, and sadly, new worship. And that's this verse in Acts chapter 17 and verse 21. Paul is in Athens, in Greece, and of course there's all kinds of philosophical nonsense comes from these philosophers. But Acts 17:21, for all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else but to either to tell or to hear some new thing. They're always wanting some new philosophy, some new thought. I marvel at the young preachers who want new books. We've got so many old books. I've been told by people, you need to write. You need to get books in print with your philosophies and your principles. And I've said to people, everything I would write's already been written. And they'll say, but we need new books. And you look at my library sometimes, a little bit behind me here, just a few books, but my main library is at home. I love old books. If I can find an old book, in fact, I've got one book that was written in I'm going to say the mid-1900s, but I've got a new edition of it, a paperback that I stumbled across. But I got an old one. I just wanted the old one. And for me to get a book printed in 1880 or whatever, but I want these old authors. I've got books on digital books that someone scanned back to the 1700s, and oh, give me old books. These old writers, they knew God and they knew truth, and they've seen it go through. I'm leery of new authors. I'm concerned. I've seen men turn in their old age and change their values and change their convictions. And I'm concerned about new books. Give me old books and children's books, recreational reading, whatever. There's plenty of old books. I don't trust this new stuff. But the fact is, you think about diets. Many years ago, the Atkins diet was the rage. A lot of people, you get Atkins bars and Atkins shakes and all these kind of things. Well, now, then it kind of disappeared, and there was another diet, and now there's the all-meat diet. This is probably the same thing as Atkins, only they don't call it Atkins, because who wants to do an Atkins diet? Because we've all done that, and it didn't work. We're still fat. But you've got My Pillow and yoga and vegan and avocado leaf mattresses or bamboo pillows or whatever. Everybody wants some new trendy thing. And there's so many of these things, we forget them as fast as the new ones come along. Doctors will tell you the main cause of illness that we're facing is stress. We're just stressed. And the Bible talks about the peace of God that passes all understanding. Instead of seeking God, we've got a generation. We want to seek health food. We want cage-free eggs. We want almond milk, cashew milk, organic dog food. Vaccinations that are so scary. Electric cars, getting rid of gas stoves. That's the thing. If we get rid of gas stoves, that'll save the world. Nah, the world's going to hell. It's such a mess. Let's just enjoy our gas stoves. Leave us alone and go to the mountains, go fishing, go to the beach. Take some time to go out in the desert, enjoy the things God has made around you, and go sledding in the wintertime, and go to church and listen to the preaching. And the sad thing is what's happened in churches. Sunday schools worked forever in American churches, but we've got churches all over, Baptist churches included, dropping Sunday school because they got some new discipleship program that's never been tested by time. We've got people, and by the way, a discipleship ministries never mentioned in the Bible. There's a lot of things. PAs aren't mentioned in the Bible, but things that we make what kind of discipleship program you have? Well, we go to church Sunday morning and Sunday school, then we go to church, hear preaching, then we go back to church Sunday night for preaching, and we go to church Wednesday night for preaching. That's 4 discipleship meetings a week right there. And we're crazy. We're crazy wanting some new thing. We're going to new thing ourselves into to destruction. This thing of not wanting Sunday school, I'll tell you why, because Sunday schools work. Children's ministries are hard work. Bus ministry is hard work. And rest home ministry is hard work. But we'd rather just get together and have some show-offs up there on the platform in their rock concert in their skinny jeans and their girls in their tight jeans showing more than they should be showing, or having more than they should have been showing. And we need to just love the traditional things that have always worked. Let's don't get enamored. Let's don't throw out what has always worked in hopes that something else might work. It's a scary thing. Marriage has always been a man and a woman with the desire, and I know it doesn't always happen, but the desire to make a lifetime commitment. It's always been that. Well, we got all kinds of goofy stuff going on today. Immoral, lewd, vulgar stuff going on under the guise of new and free. But you know what Proverbs says in Proverbs chapter 5, and you've probably read this, but I'll read it real quick for you. In Proverbs chapter 5, verse 18, let thy fountains be blessed and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. He says, why wilt thou be ravished with a strange woman? Look, just stick with your wife and love her and embrace her. And it talks there. Read that. You go read that text sometime. It talks about warmth and physical embrace and closeness. And there needs to be that closeness. Enjoy the girl you married. You don't need anything new. And we're in danger of despising the old, the faithful, the productive, the working, effective, and under the foolish idea of wanting something new, tossing out what's been proven true to find some hole-in-the-wall Chinese deli that serves terrible food. And in a restaurant, you just say, well, that was bad. We shouldn't have gone there. And by the way, I've done that. I've gone with people who wanted to go to some new place. I'm so boring. I like restaurants where I know the food is good. I don't need new food. I like the old food. I tell you, I'm so old-fashioned. I like meatloaf and mashed potatoes and gravy and carrots or beans or peas. And give me some gravy and give me some common old meat. I don't have to have new stuff. And I don't mind new stuff. I don't like lobster. I'll eat it. I think shrimp's pretty good. But we don't have to go seeking that which is new. Let your Hebrews 13:5, let your conversation be without covetousness. For he has said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Be content, he says there in that verse, Hebrews 13. Be content with such things as you have. Let's don't go seeking the new. It's a dangerous thing. It's high risk. We're going to throw out democracy and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We're going to throw that out and form something new. The people who are wanting to do that, they've never run a hot dog stand. They wouldn't know how to make good buttered popcorn and sell it. You're going to let them rewrite the document guiding the greatest nation on the planet? And you might say, well, we got problems. Yeah, we got problems because they know as long as America's prospering, they're not going to get people to buy into a new idea. But if they can cause us enough grief and enough financial hurt, enough a panic over the environment falling apart and climate change, then we'll let them write some stupid global constitution. And it's coming. We know it's coming. It's going to come in the one world government, and it's coming fast. But I'll tell you what, that you just hang on to the old. We do not need a new book. We got one. You just stick with the old stuff. We don't need a new name for church. We got church. That's what Jesus called them. That's what God called them in the Bible. The church at Ephesus, the church at Corinth, the church at Galatia, the 7 churches in Revelation. They're churches. Call it a church. Preach the word of God and stick with the old stuff that's been tried and tested. Now let's be faithful. Let's stick with soul winning and the gospel. Someone says, where's soul winning in the Bible? He that winneth souls is wise. There you go. And we ought to go into all the world and preach the gospel. That's our commission. You're not going to find a dance team or a praise team in the Bible anywhere. You're certainly not going to find worldly rock music in the Bible unless it's in Exodus 32 when Moses came down from the mountain and found him drinking and naked and dancing to rock music. There you can find your rock music. No, just give me the old-time religion and the old book. And my wife, not the old lady. I got my good wife, and I love my family. I love what God's given me. Don't need anything different. And let's just keep faithful, loving the stuff that God has used and made it work. Let's keep our bus ministry and our Sunday school going. Let's stay in those rest homes and jails. And let's be faithful, carrying gospel tracts and witnessing, because the old stuff is what has worked and will work.